Dark clouds moved slowly across the sky, hiding the moonlight. Deep in the mountains, an old palace stood in ruins. Once, this place had been full of fire, power, and the roar of dragons. Now, only silence remained. Inside the broken palace, a young dragon prince lay on the cold ground. His wings were weak, his golden scales had lost their shine, and his eyes carried only pain. He was the son of the great dragon emperor, yet no one stood by his side now. Everyone had abandoned him. The dragons who once bowed before his father now treated him like dirt. His father, the emperor, had been betrayed in a great war. The Council of Dragons declared the young prince cursed, saying he brought only weakness and shame. Even the servants, who once feared his name, left him to die in the ruins. The prince tried to stand, but his legs trembled. Hunger clawed at his stomach. His body shook from weakness. He had once been surrounded by power, but now he was nothing. His heart whispered, "Why did they leave me? Am I not the blood of the emperor?" But no answer came. Only the sound of the wind passing through broken stone walls. Days passed, maybe weeks. Time meant nothing anymore. The prince lived in shadows, drinking rainwater, eating scraps, fighting to survive. Sometimes he dreamed of his father's throne room, where flames once lit the sky. But every time he woke, the truth returned, he was no one now. The world had already forgotten the Dragon Emperor's son. One evening, as the sun sank behind the mountains, footsteps echoed in the ruined palace. They were not dragon footsteps, too light, too careful. The prince raised his head, his eyes glowing faintly. A human had entered. The man was young, dressed in simple clothes, carrying nothing but a torch. His steps slowed when he saw the broken figure lying in the shadows. Fear filled his eyes for a moment. Every story told humans to stay away from dragons. Dragons were monsters, killers, rulers of the skies. But what he saw here was different. The once mighty prince looked weak, chained by despair, more like a fallen star than a monster. The human whispered softly, "Are you alive?" The dragon prince narrowed his eyes. No human had ever dared to speak to him before. He growled weakly, his voice broken. "Leave. Or die." The human did not leave. His hand shook, but he did not run. He stepped closer, holding the torch high. You're not a beast. You're suffering." The prince laughed bitterly, though the sound was harsh and painful. "Suffering? I am abandoned. I am forgotten. My own kind cast me out. Why should a human care?" The human's face was calm, though his heart beat fast. "Because no one deserves to die alone." The dragon prince blinked. Those words hit him like a blade of fire. No dragon, no council member, no servant had ever spoken such words to him. But the human continued, his voice firm even against the prince's glare. "I don't know your story. But I know this, you are still alive. And if you are alive, you can still rise." The prince turned his head away, ashamed of the weakness in his chest. "You are a fool. Helping me will only bring death upon you. The world has already chosen to forget me." The human knelt on the cold floor, lowering the torch. He reached into his small bag and pulled out bread. Without fear, he placed it on the ground near the dragon prince. "Maybe the world has forgotten you," the human said softly. "But I will not." For a long time, silence filled the broken palace. The prince stared at the bread, then at the human. Something strange stirred inside him, a warmth he had not felt in years. He did not eat immediately. Pride still burned in his chest, though weakly. But when the human turned to leave, the prince's claws reached forward, slowly pulling the bread to his lips. He ate, and for the first time in many days, he tasted hope. That night, the human left the ruins, but he promised to return. The dragon prince lay awake, staring at the moonlight breaking through the clouds. His heart felt strange. He whispered to himself, "One human, one act, and already, my world begins to change." But deep inside, another feeling grew, a power he thought had long died. His dragon blood stirred faintly, as if responding to the kindness shown to him. The forgotten prince closed his eyes. Somewhere in the darkness, his fate shifted. He did not know yet if it was salvation or doom. But one thing was clear, the world would not ignore him forever. And soon, they would regret abandoning the Dragon Emperor's son. The night was cold, and the ruins of the Dragon Palace stood silent under the stars. The young human, whose name was Eric, walked carefully down the broken path again. His torch lit the cracked stones, and his heart beat faster with every step. Most humans would never return to a dragon's lair. But Eric was different. Something inside him told him to come back. He could not forget the sight of the fallen prince, scales dulled, wings broken, eyes full of despair. That image stayed with him all night. Now, with a bag of food and water, Eric entered the ruins once more. The dragon prince lay where he had been before, half hidden in shadows. His golden eyes opened slowly, glowing faintly as he watched the human approach. "You came back," the prince whispered, his voice sharp but weak. Eric nodded. His legs shook a little, but he did not run. "I said I would." The prince narrowed his eyes. "Why? Humans fear dragons. Your kind should hate me. Why not leave me to rot like everyone else?" Eric placed the bag down near him. "Because leaving you here felt wrong. You may be a dragon, but I saw pain in your eyes. Not fire. Not hatred. Just pain." The prince gave a bitter laugh, though it came out as a cough. "You speak like you know suffering." Eric looked down for a moment. His hands clenched tightly. "I do. My family was taken by lords who served the Council of Dragons. To them, my life meant nothing. So yes, I know what it is to be powerless." The prince tilted his head, studying the human. There was no fear in Eric's eyes now, only truth. Eric took out a piece of dried meat and held it out. The prince stared at it, pride battling against hunger. At last, his claws reached forward, carefully taking it. His sharp teeth tore through it, and warmth spread through his body. For a moment, silence hung between them. The fire crackled, and the ruined palace groaned under the weight of the wind. Then the prince asked, "Do you know who I am?" Eric shook his head. "No." The prince's voice was heavy. "I am Kale, son of the Dragon Emperor. Once, my name made kingdoms bow. Now, I am nothing." Eric's eyes widened, but he did not step back. Instead, he whispered, "If you are nothing, why are you still alive?" Kale froze. Those words cut deep, sharper than any blade. He opened his mouth to speak but found no answer. His heart thundered in his chest. Eric leaned forward, his voice firm. "You are alive because your story is not finished. Maybe the dragons abandoned you. Maybe the world turned away. But I believe one choice, one act, can change everything." Kale's chest rose and fell, his breath heavy. For so long, he had lived in darkness, chained by despair. But this human's words, simple, fragile, honest, sparked something inside him. Before Kale could respond, a sound echoed through the ruins. A low growl. Heavy footsteps. Stones cracked as shadows moved between the broken walls. Kale's eyes widened. "They are here." Eric's hand gripped the torch tighter. "Who?" "Hunters," Kale growled. "Dragons loyal to the council. They have been watching. They will not let me live." Eric's throat went dry. He could see glowing eyes in the distance, moving closer. Sharp claws scratched against stone. Every instinct told him to run. He was only human, and humans were powerless against dragons. But when he looked at Kale, the once mighty prince now struggling to rise, he knew he could not leave. Eric whispered to himself, "One choice can change everything." Then he stood tall beside Kale. Kale's weak voice broke the silence. "Foolish human, if you stay, you will die." Eric swallowed hard but kept his voice steady. "Then let me die standing with you." Kale's golden eyes locked on him, shock flashing for a moment. No one had ever spoken such words to him, not even his own kin. The shadows grew closer. 3 dark figures stepped into the ruined hall. Dragons in their smaller forms, scales black as night, eyes glowing red. One of them sneered, his voice cruel. "So it is true. The Emperor's whelp still breathes." Another laughed. "And with a human pet, no less." Kale's claws dug into the stone, but his body betrayed him, still weak, still broken. He could not rise to face them. Eric stepped forward, his torch raised high. His voice shook, but his courage burned. "Stay back." The black-scaled dragons laughed, their sharp teeth glinting. "The human thinks fire can save him. Pathetic." But then, something strange happened. The moment Eric stood beside Kale, refusing to leave, the air around the prince shifted. A faint glow lit his scales. His blood, the blood of the Dragon Emperor, stirred with new strength. Kale's eyes widened. He felt it, the spark of power awakening inside him. It was weak, but alive. And it was because of this human. The black dragons stepped closer, ready to strike. Kale whispered to Eric, his voice fierce despite his weakness. Do not fear. Something is changing, and they will regret standing here tonight. The air grew heavy. Sparks of golden light flickered across Kale's broken scales. The forgotten prince was no longer silent. And in the ruins of the old palace, the choice of one human began to shake the fate of dragons. The ruined palace trembled as the 3 black-scaled dragons stepped forward. Their red eyes glowed in the torchlight, sharp teeth bared in cruel smiles. The night air was thick with danger. Eric's grip tightened on the torch, though his hand shook. He was only a human, and humans had no weapons against dragons. Still, he did not move away from Kale's side. Kale, the forgotten prince, forced himself to rise. His claws scraped the cracked floor, his wings trembling. He was weak, but he felt something he had not felt in years, his blood burning with power. The black dragons sneered. Look at you, one of them hissed. The emperor's son, crawling in the dirt. You should have died with your father. Another laughed. Your kind left you because you are worthless. Kale's chest burned. Rage mixed with shame, but also something new, hope. The glow along his scales grew brighter, golden light flickering like fire. The hunters noticed and paused. What is this? One of them growled. Eric stepped forward, holding the torch high. His voice shook, but he shouted, Stay back! The black dragons laughed again, their voices echoing like thunder. A human dares command us. They lunged. Eric's heart pounded. For a moment, time slowed. He thought of running, of saving himself. But when he saw Kale's golden eyes burning with struggle, he made his choice. He did not move. And then, it happened. A burst of light exploded from Kale's body. Golden fire spread across his scales, wings stretching wide with sudden force. The ground shook, cracks spreading across the broken palace floor. The black dragons stopped in shock. Impossible! He was dying! Kale's voice thundered, stronger than before. I am Kale, son of the Dragon Emperor. You will not touch him. His wings flared, sending a gust of hot wind through the hall. The hunters stumbled back, their sneers fading into fear. Eric shielded his eyes from the blazing light, his heart racing. He could feel it, the power rising from Kale, not just fire, but something deeper. Kale stepped forward, his claws striking the ground with new strength. The glow in his body pulsed with each beat of his heart. The hunters snarled, but they no longer laughed. This cannot be. He was broken. Kale growled, his voice sharp as steel. I was broken because I was alone. But no longer. His gaze flicked toward Eric for the briefest moment. The human had given him something the council never had, belief. That single act had awakened the fire sleeping inside him. The hunters roared and attacked together. Their claws slashed through the air, aiming for Kale's chest. Kale's body moved on instinct. His wings snapped open, knocking one dragon back with crushing force. His tail lashed out, slamming into another, sending him crashing into a wall. The third came from behind, jaws open wide. Eric shouted, Kale! In a single motion, golden fire burst from Kale's mouth. The flames roared like thunder, striking the hunter head-on. The black-scaled dragon screamed as the fire engulfed him, his dark scales burning under the golden blaze. The palace shook with the sound of battle. When the fire faded, the hunters were broken and beaten. Two lay unconscious, the third crawled away, his eyes filled with terror. You will regret this, Prince, the wounded dragon hissed. The council will know you still live. Then they vanished into the night, leaving only silence and smoke. Kale stood in the center of the ruins, his chest heaving. The glow across his scales dimmed, but did not fade. His body shook, not from weakness this time, but from power that had finally awakened. Eric stepped closer, his eyes wide. You did it. Kale turned slowly, his golden eyes meeting the humans. His voice was low, heavy with both pride and confusion. No. We did it. Without you, I would still be dying in the dark. Eric felt his throat tighten. For the first time, he saw not just a dragon, but someone like him, someone fighting to survive, someone who had lost everything yet still stood. Kale lowered his head slightly, an action no dragon had ever shown to a human. You have my debt, Eric. My life is yours as much as it is mine. Eric shook his head quickly. I don't want your debt. I just couldn't leave you to die. Kale studied him for a long moment, then gave a faint smile, a rare, sharp glint of warmth. Then perhaps, human, You are not as small as your kind believes." But the peace lasted only a moment. Kale lifted his head, staring toward the mountains. His voice turned grim. "The hunters will return. And worse will come. The council will not forgive this. They will hunt us both." Eric felt fear crawl through his chest. He was only a man, no sword, no magic, nothing compared to dragons. Yet, when he looked at Kale, he felt something stronger than fear. Hope. Eric nodded firmly. "Then let them come. We'll face them together." Kale's wings shifted, golden sparks running along his scales. For the first time in years, he felt alive. The forgotten prince was no longer forgotten. And the world of dragons was about to change forever. The night wind carried the scent of smoke across the mountains. The ruined palace was quiet again, but both Kale and Eric knew it would not stay that way for long. The black-scaled hunters had escaped, and their warning would spread like fire. Kale stood tall, though his body still shook from the awakening of his power. Golden sparks glowed faintly across his scales, like embers refusing to die. He looked toward the sky, his wings trembling with the memory of flight. Eric watched him closely. "They will come back, won't they?" Kale's eyes narrowed. "Yes. The council will not ignore me now. They thought I was dead. Now they know the truth." Eric's stomach tightened. He had faced danger before, but never like this. Still, he refused to step back. "Then we need to move. We can't stay here." Kale looked at him, studying the human's steady expression. He gave a slow nod. "You are right. If we remain, they will crush us." The two left the broken palace before dawn. Kale's steps were heavy, his wings dragging at times, but each hour his strength returned. Eric walked beside him, guiding him through hidden paths in the mountains. 4 days they traveled. Eric shared his food, his water, and sometimes his silence. Kale spoke little, but in the glow of campfires, his golden eyes softened. Slowly, a strange bond grew between dragon and man, 2 exiles, 2 survivors walking the same road. But far away, in the dark halls of the Dragon Council, the hunters knelt before their masters. "He lives," one hissed. "The Emperor's son. Kale has awakened." The council chamber filled with growls and roars. Enormous dragons, their scales black, silver, and crimson, glared down with fury. "He must be destroyed," one bellowed. "If he rises, he will claim the throne." Another spoke coldly. "Send the commander. End this before the fire spreads." And so, the order was given. The hunt began. Kale and Eric camped near a river that night. The stars reflected in the water, and the sound of rushing waves filled the silence. Eric sat close to the fire, sharpening a small knife he carried. It was useless against dragons, but it gave him comfort. "Kale," he asked softly, "why did they abandon you? Why did your own kind turn against you?" Kale's claws dug into the dirt. His voice was low, heavy. "Because I was not strong enough. My father trusted me, but the council saw weakness. When he fell, they chose to erase me rather than see me rise. They called me cursed." Eric shook his head. "They were wrong. I saw your strength." Kale looked at him, golden eyes burning faintly. "It was not strength, Eric. It was your choice. Your act lit the fire in me." Eric felt heat rise in his chest, but he said nothing. He only tightened his grip on the knife and stared at the flames. Suddenly, Kale's head snapped upward. His wings shifted, and his pupils narrowed. "They are here," he growled. The air grew heavy. From the shadows of the trees, dark shapes emerged. Dragons in their hunting forms, sleek, scaled, and merciless. Their eyes glowed red in the firelight. Eric's hand trembled around his knife. "How many?" Kale's voice was grim. "Too many." The hunters circled them, their claws scraping against stone. One of them stepped forward, a scar running down his face. His voice was cruel. "The council sends its greetings, little prince." Kale spread his wings wide, golden sparks dancing across his scales. "If you want me, you will have to burn for it." The scarred dragon laughed. "And what will you do, half-broken? Hide behind your pet human?" Eric's jaw tightened, but before he could speak, Kale's voice thundered, "This human has more courage than any of you cowards." The hunters hissed, their tails lashing. Then, without warning, they attacked. The clearing erupted into chaos. Claws clashed against stone, wings beat the air, and fire burst across the night sky. Kale struck one hunter aside with his tail, his body moving with raw fury. Golden flames poured from his mouth, lighting the trees. But there were too many. For every dragon he knocked down, 2 more closed in. Eric ran through the smoke, heart pounding, searching for anything he could use. He grabbed a fallen branch lit with fire and swung it wildly at a hunter who came too close. The dragon snarled, startled more than hurt, but it gave Kale a brief opening. "Eric! Stay back!" Kale roared, slamming his claws into the ground. A shockwave of golden fire burst outward, throwing enemies back. But then the earth shook. The trees trembled. A shadow fell across the battlefield. From the darkness, a massive figure stepped forward. His scales were crimson like blood, his horns curved like blades, and his wings stretched wide enough to block the moon. The hunters fell silent, bowing their heads. Kale's eyes narrowed. His chest burned with rage. "Commander Veros." The Crimson Dragon's voice was deep and cruel. "So it is true. The Emperor's whelp crawls in the dirt, clinging to life with the help of a human." Eric felt his knees weaken. This dragon was larger, stronger, and far more terrifying than the hunters. Kale spread his wings, golden light flickering, but even he knew this was not a battle he could win. Veros's teeth gleamed as he smiled. "Run if you like. It will only make the hunt sweeter." The night grew darker. The true battle was about to begin. The clearing shook under the weight of the Crimson Commander. His wings spread wide, blocking the stars, his eyes burning like molten steel. The smaller hunters bowed low, stepping aside as their leader moved forward. Kale stood tall, golden sparks flickering across his scales, but even he felt the crushing power in the air. Eric's breath caught in his chest. This was no ordinary hunter, this was Commander Veros, one of the most feared dragons in the Council's army. Veros's deep voice rolled like thunder. "You should have stayed dead, little prince. The Council buried your name for a reason." Kale's claws dug into the earth. His wings trembled with both fury and exhaustion. "You call me weak, yet you bring an army to hunt one dragon and a single human. Who is truly afraid, Veros?" The commander's grin widened. "Afraid? No. But I will enjoy tearing you apart." With a roar, Veros struck. The ground split beneath his claws as he lunged. Kale leapt to meet him, golden fire bursting from his mouth. The flames lit the night sky, but Veros slammed through them, his crimson scales resisting the heat. His tail lashed out, striking Kale and sending him crashing into the riverbank. Eric shouted, "Kale!" He ran forward, but a black hunter blocked his path, growling. Eric raised his torch, swinging it wildly. He knew it would not kill, but it forced the dragon to step back. On the riverbank, Kale struggled to rise. Blood dripped from his mouth, but his eyes burned with fury. He spread his wings and launched himself again, striking Veros with his claws. Sparks flew as golden light clashed against crimson steel. The 2 dragons roared, their voices echoing through the mountains. The battle was brutal. Veros's strength was overwhelming, every strike heavy enough to crush stone. Kale fought with desperation, his golden flames burning brighter with each breath, but his body was still weakened from years of abandonment. "Is this all the Emperor's son can do?" Veros mocked, slamming Kale into the ground again. "Pathetic." Kale's vision blurred. His body screamed in pain, yet deep in his chest something burned, something more than fire. Eric's voice cut through the chaos. "Kale! Get up!" The words hit Kale harder than Veros's claws. In that moment, he remembered the night Eric first gave him bread, the moment hope returned to his heart. He was not fighting alone anymore. Kale's golden eyes flared. With a roar that shook the earth, Kale's fire burst outward in a blinding wave. Golden flames wrapped around his body, brighter than ever before. Veros snarled, stumbling back as the heat seared even his crimson scales. The hunters gasped, their eyes wide with fear. Kale rose slowly, wings stretching wide, light pouring from every scale. His voice thundered. "I am Kale, son of the Dragon Emperor. I am not forgotten." Veros's grin vanished. His eyes narrowed. So, the boy has teeth after all. He lunged again, but this time Kale met him head-on. Their claws clashed, golden sparks and crimson embers scattering through the night. Meanwhile, Eric fought desperately. He ducked between fallen branches, using fire and speed to distract the hunters. One lunged at him, but Eric thrust the burning torch into its eye. The dragon screamed, thrashing back, giving Kale another chance. Eric panted, his body trembling with exhaustion. He knew he was powerless compared to them, yet every second he bought gave Kale time to fight. And Kale noticed. "Eric!" Kale roared between strikes. "Guide me!" Eric's eyes widened, but then he understood. He shouted commands, watching the hunter's movements, warning Kale of attacks he could not see. "Left! Behind you! Tail strike coming!" Kale moved with his words, dodging, countering, striking with precision. For the first time, dragon and human fought as one. Veros roared in fury as Kale's claws slashed across his chest, golden fire burning into the wound. Blood hissed as it hit the ground, steam rising. "You dare wound me!" Veros thundered. His tail swept out, smashing trees like twigs. "I will tear your heart out." Kale's wings beat the air, golden fire swirling around him like a storm. His voice shook the sky. "No, Veros. Tonight, the Forgotten rises." With a final burst of power, Kale launched forward, his jaws blazing with golden flame. He struck Veros head-on, fire pouring into the commander's chest. The crimson dragon roared in agony, crashing into the river, water exploding upward. The hunters froze in shock. Veros struggled, his body burning, but he did not fall completely. His eyes glared with hate, his voice trembling with rage. "This is not the end, Prince. The council will come for you. Stronger than me." Then, with a roar, he beat his massive wings and vanished into the night, leaving smoke and fire in his wake. The clearing was silent at last. The hunters scattered, fleeing into the shadows, their courage broken. Kale collapsed to one knee, his golden glow flickering. Eric rushed to his side, dropping the burnt-out torch. "You did it," Eric whispered, his voice full of awe. "You stood against him." Kale's chest rose and fell, his breath heavy. "No, we did it. Without you, I would have fallen." Eric smiled weakly, though his face was pale with exhaustion. "Then we'll keep standing. Together." Kale's golden eyes met his, a bond stronger than fire forming between them. But in his heart, Kale knew the truth. This was only the beginning. Veros had spoken the truth. The council would come, and they would bring war. The Forgotten Prince had risen, but blood and fire would follow. The mountains still carried the smell of fire and blood. The river smoked where Veros had fallen, and the trees stood broken around the battlefield. Eric sat near the ashes of the campfire, breathing hard, his hands blistered from holding the torch too long. Beside him, Kale rested, his golden scales dim but still glowing faintly like embers in the dark. His chest rose and fell heavily, but his eyes were sharp, no longer filled with despair. For the first time in years, the Forgotten Prince was alive not only in body, but in spirit. Eric broke the silence. "Veros will return, won't he?" Kale nodded slowly. "Yes. And he will not come alone. The council will gather. They will not allow me to rise again." Eric swallowed, fear tightening his chest. "Then what do we do?" Kale's wings shifted, spreading wide even though pain still lingered in his body. His golden eyes burned. "We do not run. We return." Eric blinked. "Return? Where?" Kale's voice was firm, heavy with pride. "To the council. To the heart of dragonkind. They wanted me forgotten, erased. But I will stand before them. I will show them that the Emperor's blood still burns." Eric stared at him, shocked. "You mean to challenge them?" Kale lowered his head slightly. "Not alone. With you." The human's heart pounded. He was only one man, no sword, no armor, no wings. But when Kale looked at him, he felt something greater than fear. He felt purpose. Eric nodded slowly. "Then let's finish this." Days later, the skies thundered as Kale flew again for the first time in years. His wings, though still scarred, carried him higher and higher, golden sparks trailing behind him. Eric held tightly to the harness Kale had made for him, the wind rushing across his face. Beneath them, mountains stretched endlessly, rivers gleamed, and valleys smoked with dragon fire. But ahead, on the horizon, a vast citadel of black stone rose into the clouds, the hall of the council. Kale's chest tightened as memories returned. He had walked those halls as a prince, son of the Emperor. Now he returned as an exile, as a challenger. Eric leaned forward, shouting against the wind. "They'll be waiting." Kale's voice rumbled back. "Good." When they landed at the gates of the citadel, dragons gathered from all sides. Hundreds of wings filled the sky, their roars shaking the mountains. The council chamber doors opened, and the High Lord stepped forward, massive, ancient dragons with scales like steel and eyes like fire. Whispers spread through the crowd. It cannot be. The Emperor's son lives. Impossible. The council leader, an ancient silver dragon with horns like towers, glared down. Kale. The forgotten whelp returns. You dare stand here? Kale's voice thundered, echoing across the chamber. I do. You cast me aside. You called me cursed. You wanted me erased. But I live, and I will not bow. Gasps and growls spread through the crowd. Eric stepped forward, small and fragile among giants, yet his voice was steady. He is not alone. You call him weak, but I have seen his strength. He fought your hunters. He faced your commander. And he rose. Not because of blood alone, but because he chose to stand. And I chose to stand with him. The council laughed bitterly, flames curling from their jaws. A human speaks in our hall. Insulting. But Kale's golden flames burst forth, silencing them. His wings stretched wide, light flooding the chamber. Do not mock him. This human gave me what none of you ever did, faith. He is my ally. And with him, I will rise. The council roared in anger. Dragons leapt from the sides, ready to strike. But Kale moved like fire itself. Golden flames exploded across the floor, forcing them back. His voice shook the stone walls. I am Kale, son of the Emperor. I am not cursed. I am not forgotten. I am the future of dragonkind. The crowd of dragons hesitated. Many growled, but others, young ones, outcasts, those who had doubted the council, watched with new light in their eyes. Vero stepped forward again, his chest still scarred from Kale's fire. You will die here, boy. Kale's golden eyes locked with his. No. Today, I live. Today, I return. The chamber erupted in chaos. Dragons clashed, flames roared, wings tore through the air. Kale fought at the center, golden fire burning brighter than ever before. Eric moved between the giants, guiding, shouting warnings, pulling Kale from deadly strikes. Every moment, Kale grew stronger, not just from his blood, but from his bond with Eric. Dragon and human moved as one, their courage feeding each other. At last, Kale pinned Veros beneath his claws, golden fire burning in his jaws. The commander roared, but Kale's voice thundered over him. This is my choice. My life. My return. The golden flames poured forth, searing Veros into defeat. Silence followed. The council stared, their eyes wide. The hall glowed with golden fire, brighter than it had since the Emperor's death. Kale stood tall, wings spread, Eric by his side. Remember this, Kale growled. One human's act changed everything. You tried to erase me, but you failed. I am Kale, the Dragon Emperor's son. And I will not be forgotten. The dragons bowed their heads, some in fear, some in respect. The future had shifted. Eric placed a hand on Kale's side, his voice soft. So, what now? Kale looked at him, his golden eyes glowing like dawn. Now, Eric, we begin. The fire of a new age had been lit. And the world would never be the same again.